Mm.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you doing
Oh.
today?
Oh. Well, um, I'm excited for the topics we're going to
Me
talk about
too.
today. We just had a little bit of a conversation right before coming on.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so I'm just excited to see what will unfold. Yeah, how are
Yeah.
you?
Um, I'm doing really good. I can say like up until yesterday, I was just kind of like in this funky state,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I'm now in the flow of feeling pretty good and excited.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
to
same.
share. Yeah.
Yesterday I felt like I was really in something, like under a spell
Yeah.
of fear.
Yeah.
And now something transmuted, and today I feel like now we can like look at the fear
Yeah.
now, and there's still remnants, but I'm not so in it. I'm kind of more disidentified with it and just kind of examining
Yeah.
where all the kind of undercurrents that created that
Yeah.
emotional state.
Nice. As you were talking, like it made me kind of become aware and realize like, wow, like we talk about fear or like being in this funk, it's not like a positive state, but I realized like we just kind of openly talk about like, yeah, that's how we were in, and like there's no judgment to that. And then now we're doing good. Like it's it's interesting to look back because we were so not that before.
Yeah,
It's about wanting to not feel the pain or disown the pain.
right. Not like admit that something was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so even when intense things are happening under the surface, it's kind of like there's no acknowledgement of it. So even when you kind of put off or like get released from it, there's also
Yeah.
no acknowledgement of that because
Yeah.
the knot was unacknowledged. So it's just like a lot of just things that are happening without acknowledgement. But I just love that.
Yeah.
Okay, mirror
Yeah.
wounds were like
Yeah.
all about illuminating what's been in the
Yeah.
subconscious.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like we're
Also,
so okay with pain now and fear, and it's not a scary thing. I mean, yeah, when you're in it, it's like, of course, you don't want to feel it,
yeah.
but
Mhm,
like we grew so much from it, I feel like,
mhm.
where we still surrender to it because we know there's like solutions coming out of there from that
Mhm.
from that feeling state. What is it like for you? Like when you surrender into like these emotions that are considered like painful or um negative.
Yeah. Well, if I just, well, my kind of aha yesterday was that, oh, I think I've been depressed
Mm,
for the past, since coming back from Mexico,
mhm.
weeks. And by depressed, I guess what I mean is like kind of in this kind of downward spiral of,
Yeah.
but it was subtle, but it was just kind of, and yesterday was this realization, oh, yeah, I'm, um, I haven't been feeling good about myself.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, just in a kind of like more weak, vulnerable place.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I guess uh I think with pain is that I don't always know that I'm not always aware that I'm in pain.
Mm, that's a
So,
good one. I
you know,
agree. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it even takes
A
time
while. Yeah.
and like, you know, and an attunement to recognize, oh, I'm in pain.
Uh-huh. Oh my God, I'm so glad you brought that up because
Yeah.
that's so true.
Yeah. And like,
Yeah.
I think following our conversation from 2 nights before, where you just kind of reminded me to like all the things that I kind of felt like I needed to do and the things that I wanted to do, but I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, and then you just kind of reminded me like if just focus on your inner alignment first and don't even think about doing those things. Just focus on what
Yeah.
you want to do. That's it's going to get you aligned to your core,
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever that is. And so I
Yeah.
really was following that. The next morning, I just, you know, I woke up feeling this like heaviness in my body. And I was like, okay. And the whole day just kind of, um, I realized I needed to make space for whatever, like the pain
Yeah.
I've been holding. And because I didn't quite even know what it was exactly,
Yeah.
I needed to create space to just feel it out. Yeah. And kind of be with all these like the chaos in my mind of like
Yeah.
all the imprints I had been receiving the last weeks and the recent days and just kind of hearing like clips of things. And it was just like a way for my system to integrate and to um like things that my body had collected that were tension
Yeah.
with like things that were kind of creating pain in me,
Yeah.
emotional pain.
Can I stop you before you go on further?
Yeah.
Like, because I want to ask for, because I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming like some people that may watch this may feel a little confused as to like what that looks like. Like, what do you mean? So like when you invite, um, I guess like that feeling state of that negative space, I guess,
Mhm.
like, like what does it look like to surrender to? Like, what do you mean?
Mm. Mhm. Um, God, the surrender process has so many layers, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
the
yeah,
first surrender is kind of just acknowledgement, like, okay, something is going on. I acknowledge that something is going on
yeah,
inside of me that's creating some sort of distress. Something is not at peace here.
yeah.
Then um
Like, do you recognize that? Like, because I'm assuming it helps if like, or like, do you recognize those feeling states? Because you know how you said um, like I don't recognize it for a while.
yeah, right.
So like, how do you end up recognizing it? Is it because you're very quiet and you just kind of tap into what am I feeling? Or like, how does it happen? Like, how does it occur? Or
Right.
in this situation?
It does require me to get quiet. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay, okay.
And to kind of tell all of myself like, okay, something important is happening here. Let's take a pause.
Uh,
Yeah. And just feel and see what this is.
so being neutral and allowing whatever emotion to come up.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Got it.
And
Got it.
then in that space is when I just kind of then start to sense there's a war going on inside,
Got
and
it.
it's like,
Yeah.
no, this isn't, no, go this way. Like,
Yeah.
don't pay attention to this. Like, this isn't, don't, that was a lot of the battle yesterday, like not wanting me to pay attention to this thing because it was so
Oh,
annoyed that this thing was annoying me that
yeah.
it was like, I don't want to give my energy to this.
Yeah.
But it's like, I already
So
am,
understand. Yeah.
by resisting.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to, like, no, like this is, and so just like being a witness and present for that.
Yeah.
And it's like literally, it feels like, like parts of the self that are just like pulling away from each other and just like this, when you're like in an argument, it's like when you're in an
Yeah.
argument with an external person, but it's like yourself
Yeah.
with all your inner characters, with like, people that or whatever. It's just, and like,
Yeah.
yeah. like
Love that.
perceiving the enemy in all these things, and like,
Yeah.
and then that's making me feel distress and unsafe.
Got it.
Yeah.
So then what happened after noticing and feeling into that?
Hmm. Yeah. So then there comes a moment where when I don't fight anymore, that this is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, this is where I have to really kind of descend into myself to get like almost like you're operating on something like super delicate
Yeah.
and fragile, you know?
Yeah.
Like I have to like get like
Wait,
really sensitive.
can I ask you another question right
Yeah.
there? When you're in there, a do you actually have a conversation with this part of you? Like
Um,
it's separate, or you just kind of observe
I'm like kind
while
of
you
observing, and I'm creating. I realize I'm just having to get like um almost like this mother role of like, okay, it's
Mm,
painful. It's really hard.
got it.
Yeah. And like, you're allowed to feel this way.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. And so then kind of that opens up kind of like this nurturing space for all
Mm,
the woundedness to kind of let down their armor and
mhm.
their swords and everything that they're like
Yeah.
fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, I mean, I really liked how you explained that.
And it's so much like about like, okay, you're right to feel this way, and also they're right for having
Yeah.
being who they are.
Yeah.
So it's like having to constantly shift your consciousness to like validating every part of that conflict.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
it's like
noticed.
they're
Yeah.
okay, they're valid for that, for having said that or done that to you or whatever, because that's
Yeah.
that's where they are. And
Yeah.
also, it's also right for you to be hurt by that and
Mm-hmm.
offended by that and because of what you experienced.
Hmm.
And so it's just kind of like moving around, like having to
Yeah.
tend to the wounds of all these different parts.
Yeah. I agree because um I loved how you explained in details like how you process it because I can say in the past, and I'm assuming like a lot of people do this where if they find this negative emotion, what they immediately do is ignore it or they just cut it off
Yeah.
and they don't even look into it or because I used to do that too. So like that was like the thing to do basically
Yeah.
and not acknowledge it. But with what you're explaining is when you acknowledge every part of this emotional state and
Mhm.
you acknowledge them,
Yeah.
is basically what you're saying is like they feel calm to basically have space to listen and understand each other or
Mhm.
something like that
Yeah. Uh-huh.
to find a solution. So there's no, it seems like you're helping them not be in resistance,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
but you first let them have it, like just
Yeah,
go
they
at
just
it.
have to like go at it because um I think when you're, how we're so programmed to first like kind of ignore it or,
Yeah.
kind of minimize it in some way.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Um so I think the first step is like kind of letting each part like really take up space
Yeah.
to like fully be annoyed or whatever the emotion is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, okay. I love your story right now.
God, that was work.
So so now I'm really curious. After them all being acknowledged and then being seen and heard, then what?
Yeah.
Like, how
So
did you feel after?
yeah. So it was kind of like um I feel like it kind of happened in waves, and then, I had this, I think I had a breakthrough when I kind of just like connected everything that was happening to what my core wound was
Mm,
through that conflict.
I see.
And it just came down to like feeling myself like unworthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And like angry at others who reflect back to me that I'm unworthy somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. And like um others are enjoy like kind of embodying like positive things,
Yeah.
and I'm outside of it
Mm,
because like there's something unworthy about me inherently.
I see.
So I'm
Oh,
like, yeah, the pain of that separation because I'm sensing myself unworthy of
yeah.
positivity and
Mm.
joy and happiness and love.
So when you're saying when you felt into the negative emotions and surrender to it, you found the root, which is unworthiness. So when you got to that space, like, how did it benefit you?
Mm, mhm. Yeah. Well, okay, so okay, the turnaround was okay, so backstory is I had this relationship with my skin
Mhm.
where it's just like when something is off balance in me, it just kind of shows up in my skin. And it's like a trigger for me to feel like either um like desirable or not.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. And so like I just realized how in a subtle way, I've just been kind of recognizing I've been kind of downward spiraling into that like my old like mental thought pattern, like old
Yeah.
familiar grooves that kind of take me into a space of like really low self-esteem
Mm.
when I feel like I'm not attractive, like because my
Yeah.
skin is like acting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it kind of like I started to feel that's when I yesterday recognized, oh, here I am, I'm going into body dysmorphia again. This is
Yeah.
the thing where I'm like, it gets pretty intense. It can
Yeah.
like self-disgust.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so
I
um,
understand that.
yeah, and like I just like it's almost like it's like a very painful dissociated space to
Mhm.
like it's like this like separation that starts to happen more and more like minutely but more incrementally, where I
Yeah.
start to feel like, oh, there's happy people over there who don't have insecurities about how they look
Mhm.
and how they
Mhm.
appear in the
Mhm.
world.
Yeah.
Those are the deserving people of joy and
Yeah.
happiness, and then there's me.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so the shift was when I realized, oh, okay, so this depressed state of low self-esteem and feeling unworthy is like showing me the part of me that is still conditioned to believe that I need to get external validation from other people and to like appear a certain way
Mm.
so that I can be loved and included and experience joy so that I can
Mhm.
deserve those things.
I see.
So it like showed me where I'm like my false dependence on that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, to think like, you know, so that's my slave mind that got
Yeah.
activated. I mean, that's
Yeah.
been activated in a subtle but incrementally more way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which then I was like, oh, of course, then like the turnaround is like, okay, when I can have gratitude for my skin doing what it needs to do and my body
Yeah.
willing to expel what it needs to expel through my skin for me
Yeah.
to like realize, like, can I accept myself in this state and not think that I'm like completely worthless now
Yeah. Yeah.
without getting, without feeling like um um like, you know, my deserving is tied up with like how I appear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's like, oh, it's such an old
Wait.
ancestral pattern, right? Like the feminine
Yeah.
pattern of like your worth is in your appearance.
Yeah. So that energy feels like the same energy of like, oh, you're deserving and all of that if you become a doctor
Yeah.
versus like I don't know, a cleaner.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that energy that you said about the attractiveness is like, oh, the people that are attractive and all of that, they're more deserving of happiness and whatnot. And if you're not considered that, then um, you're not deserving of it.
Yeah.
But your unworthiness was trying to teach you that's not true.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah. So then when I realized that,
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if I can love myself and accept myself in
Yeah.
this state, again,
Yeah. Yeah.
here's an
Yeah.
opportunity where you can flush that programming out of your system by like, you
Woohoo!
know, completely subverting that programming by saying, no, I love and accept myself even
Yeah.
more right now because
Yep.
I know that like, yeah, this is
Totally.
my, this is my window to clear that out and like
Yeah.
really inhabit myself
Yeah.
again.
I love your unworthiness so much because she is so right and so true. Like it's so true. Like her awareness is so spot on.
And it came down to like realizing, okay, so let's just play it out, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I don't, I don't receive any love. Everyone's just like happier, you
Yeah.
know, happy, and I'm outside of it. I'm miserable. I'm outside.
Yeah.
I'm ugly, decrepit, all of that. And then like just play it out. What is the ultimate manifestation of that? And it came down to, okay, so I can be like ugly, miserable, disowned, like rejected.
Hmm.
And what can I do in that state, you know, if like everyone's left me
Hmm. Hmm.
because this is the way that I am right now.
Yeah.
And like in that, it was kind of like, okay, there was like this anger that started to come up that I felt was like
Yeah.
healthy because it was like anger about like, yeah, actually, fuck you that you reject me for not
Yeah.
looking how you think I should look. And
Yeah.
like, even if you reject me, I'm not going to reject me.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so if I'm going to be miserable without you, like, why can't I just, it was just like a liberation thing of like, okay, so I've gone all the way to the maximum misery,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now I already know that. So what's the point of like continuously torturing myself?
Yeah.
Like, might as well like try to create my own paradise within my own self, even
Yeah.
if no one accepts me, or something like
So
that. Yeah.
that inner voice, you found the policing of that inner voice of like um of you have to clear your face, you have to look better so that we can be deserving of it. Like
Yeah. Mhm.
you were able to find that within you.
Yeah. And just kind of like being like, yeah, you can try and try and try,
Yeah.
but it's just going to make you more and more miserable.
Yeah.
Keep trying like that.
And
So
that part got an understanding.
yeah, like I
Whoa.
don't want to try like that because it's
Yeah.
that very trying that's making me miserable anyway.
Mhm, mhm. Which again is manifesting not
Yeah,
deserving.
exactly. That's just manifesting more undeserving. Yeah.
So it was only seeing like one-sided version of how it's like all, like it was only seeing all negativity in it.
All
Like
negativity in what?
it in like, so for instance, um like you breaking out, only seeing the negativity in that
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
nothing positive. Because it could
Yeah.
be like, well, if you really don't want this on your face, then like what can we do?
Yeah.
You know, like
Right.
if it's something that you don't like seeing on yourself, then like what can we do?
Yeah.
It wasn't even thinking positively. It was just went on a negative
Right.
spiral or
Right.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And understanding that also even that part that's like criticizing me, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
the role that that part is playing is that, yeah, it just wants me to like be loved the
Yeah.
only way that it knows how,
Yeah.
looking a certain way.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
I
So,
love what you're sharing.
so, but I feel like underneath all of that,
Yeah.
like to just kind of like just have like the tower burning moment again, where it's just like, I don't
Yeah.
want to like keep that like
Yeah.
trying energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and
Because is it because you're able to clearly see how you're hurting yourself?
yeah, uh-huh. Yeah. And and then coming back to, okay, it's almost like finding the sweet spot of like um when you're in that like trying energy and you just feel small and you're just like, it feels like being a slave to that ideology, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
of like, I need to get my approval or I need
Yeah.
to get my love from this condition.
Yeah.
um and just being able to like burn that down with like,
Yeah.
no, I need to approve of me exactly as I am,
Yeah.
and that's my strength.
Yeah.
That's the strength I want to build, not this, not the like false strength that comes from like trying to like hide,
Yeah.
like change myself.
That's so
Like
true.
it's like that's the power spot. That's, you know.
Yeah. Can I also ask you, like, what was the turning point? Because you know how like sometimes even me too, like in the past, or like I feel like this would help other people too. Like, even though you know it's not healthy, you still do it,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm,
So like I'm assuming that even that part that you discovered
mhm.
of like, um, yes, I understand. And but I still think like, I don't know, like like I'm assuming like sometimes parts like that, even though they know it, they still may not want to budge,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know,
right.
that
Uh-huh.
feeling state.
I go through that too. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
So, but as I'm saying it out loud, I think I'm getting it more with what you're saying. Like if that part is still a little bit in resistance,
Yeah.
I think with what you described,
Yeah.
like you would have to just surrender more into the pain of you,
Yeah.
like how you're hurting yourself.
Yes. And I think that was the turning point moment when I um got to admit
Yeah.
um like where I was in a space where I felt safe to confide, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
um and admit like how much I'm feeling hurt about this.
So in this case, surrendering more into that painful state was actually beneficial.
Yes.
Like
Uh-huh.
that was what created the
That's
turning
what,
point.
to fully admit to like the vulnerability of like how much this was
Yeah.
creating pain for me.
Yeah.
And admitting like, oh God, because there's a part of me that always carries around shame that like this matters, why this matters. It feels like it shouldn't matter so much,
Yeah.
But then deep down, like admitting that it does matter to me,
Yeah.
that I'm not getting my validation or feeling of self-worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, the pain did something positive for you.
Yeah. So the pain became something positive to like really admit to the pain.
Yeah. It was like your most authentic friend.
Yeah. Pain is your most authentic friend.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
then
love it. I love it.
I was being a most caring friend by listening to my pain
Yep.
as my
Yep.
friend. I created like a really safe relationship with my pain
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
saying, "Oh my God,
Yeah. And in that
this has
moment,
been really sucky for you to like
yeah.
feel this way."
Yeah. And in that moment, pain was something to be in gratitude for or something
Yeah.
like that, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
thank
Right.
goodness.
Thank goodness. Yeah. Because then
Yeah.
once the pain was like, we really like merged, and I was like, oh wow, I really see how deeply it was like acutely affecting you, and it was creating all these other issues
Yeah.
in all these other places. But to
Yeah.
get to the root, and then that's kind of what allowed for this surge of like, what? Like knowing myself through that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, no,
Wow.
I don't want to, I don't want to give my energy to that life trajectory where I'm
Yeah.
constantly like editing and modifying and hiding myself. Like, I want this trajectory where like I accept myself
Yeah.
as I am, and this is where my power comes from.
So it also gave you clarity.
Oh, it also gave me clarity and alignment,
Dang.
true alignment. So
Dang.
the pain was showing me where I was in false alignment.
Yeah.
That's why it was in pain, because it was incongruent to the
Yeah.
actual divine truth
hmm
that like I am worthy, you know,
Yeah.
and like about my beauty,
Yeah.
like owning my
So,
beauty.
yeah. Yeah. But I really want to emphasize that when you surrender to that pain, it was painful. Everything about it was
Yeah.
real. Like you had to go through the pain to get into this state, basically, of like love and gratitude for what you became aware of.
Mhm.
Dang,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I mean, like, so then this is really confirming and validating that pain or facing your pain
Mhm.
is not going to kill you, is not such a fearful place,
Mm.
that pain can be good.
Oh yeah.
Fear is not so fearful. They both have positive aspects to them.
Mhm. Even though it feels negative.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Woo! I love this because we were all taught to run away from fear, run away from pain, like do whatever you can to not feel it,
Mhm.
go towards something positive so you never have to feel it, or just ignore it or erase it out of your memory, just forget about it.
Mhm.
But we're finding out that like you don't need to do that, because if you end up doing that, it eventually backfires on you, is what we've learned.
Yeah.
So I guess this is so great because right before we got on, we were just kind of talking about what we want to talk about today. And your story was, I don't know, we just, again, it just naturally happened where
Yeah.
this is a really good segue to talk about what we actually want to talk about today, which is how everything is a double-edged sword. everything.
Mhm. Mhm.
So like
Yeah.
in this scenario, that depression that you felt, which you chased it down to the roots
Mhm.
and going through all that pain,
Mhm.
basically like that feeling state, that negative feeling state, you found something positive in it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Finding your true alignment.
Yeah.
Mhm. And discovering, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
discovering where I was, parts of me was like plugged into this like painful dynamic with the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it needed to like get my attention with pain to show me where I was believing in that painful dynamic to be the only way I can be in the world.
Yeah. So yes, you can find solution through positive like states, but you could also find solutions when you surrender to the negative states too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So just the
Dang.
message about, it's always a good thing to go into the pain.
Mm-hmm. And I love that this is our job. Like this is what we do.
Yeah.
Like help people surrender to, like safe enough for them to surrender to their pain, where eventually um, pain is not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't make an enemy of the negativities or anything negative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Dang.
Yeah.
Just
Wow.
love this. And thank you so much for being so vulnerable with everything. Because through your vulnerability, like there were so many aha moments.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Because I know it's such a, yeah, it's such a feminine, patriarchal wound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I totally
Like
agree.
self-worth and value coming
Yeah.
from, like where that's coming from. And so
Mhm.
how we can like
Yeah.
redirect that misalignment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also being in society where it really caters, they've really gone towards like having to look good 24 hours a day. Like,
Yeah.
where people have to be in that state all the time,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
is, yeah, so unhealthy.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, totally.
Do you,
Mhm.
so I guess, do you want to kind of talk about like like what is a double-edged sword?
Mm.
Like how everything is a double-edged sword?
Mm. Yeah. And maybe that could segue into the double-edged sword that you've been
Oh
experiencing,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, totally. Like for me, like um I feel like I have been recently just all about that. Like really recognizing the double-edged sword in everything.
Mm.
And the two main ones that just cropped up like today and yesterday was, and a few days ago was patience and pressure,
Mm.
the double-edged sword. So like, I guess, how do you define, like, what
Yeah.
is a double-edged sword, first of all?
Yeah. I would define it as, um, Like,
Positive and negative in everything
yeah,
simultaneously, right?
simultaneously. Right. Mhm.
Yeah. So like, I don't know, like this pen can be a double-edged sword where it's could be utilized as something that's beneficial for you or not.
Or like what you write with the pen, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, oh, like you can write something that um, creates awareness
Yeah.
for yourself. Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
the positivity of like becoming aware of something you weren't aware of before. But
Hmm.
the double-edged sword could be on the flip side of that. Now you have to deal with that new awareness. Um, and it may come with like having to make some changes you weren't ready to make.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on one
Yeah.
hand, you're like, oh my God, now I know like
Yes. Yeah.
more about myself, which is great.
Yeah. Hmm.
Now yeah. Um, but now maybe with that knowing, it's like, okay, there's maybe this relationship isn't serving my expansion anymore or something, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
Because
So
now where
this,
I'm going is like, it can't,
yeah,
yeah.
I love what you said because then now it's like this pen was utilized as like there is positive and negative simultaneously.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's that too. But I feel um that's like a like a really profound awareness to have of like, wow, this pen made me become aware of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And then that outcome of that awareness could be positive or negative to you.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so it feels like, I mean, like, I guess, do you think we can say that, like, yeah, everyone experienced a double-edged sword in their life where everything is because, like, you're either on one side of the spectrum versus the other. So I guess a pretty um, like easy one to define that is being a good person.
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh
like
God.
we all were taught and told that like being a good person is better and good,
Hmm.
right?
Uh-huh. It's like
So we,
such a obvious, but not
yeah,
obvious
yeah,
thing. Of
and
course, you think like, yes, being a good person is good and being a bad person is bad.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so like we were taught what is good and what is bad.
Yeah.
And so like like you're on one spectrum of living life just as a good person,
Mhm.
and you're doing everything according to what is considered good.
Mhm.
So how in that space, how can that be a negative experience by just being a good person?
Mm.
You want to go into that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So being a good person is good. First of all, that's a positivity of like being a good person because you are accepted. It feels good.
Mhm.
And like,
People like you.
yeah, yeah,
You get, positive affirmations from people like, oh wow, you're so
yeah.
whatever, like considerate, you're so
Uh-huh. And you're
nice.
seen,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
included.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And
so there's positivity in that.
mhm,
Like
mhm.
you're
Yeah.
you're not alone basically if you're considered a good
Right.
person because you're
Uh-huh.
kind of rewarded for being a good person, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So how is that a negative thing at the same time? Like, no, like when does it become negative to be a good person?
Mhm. Yeah. So, yep, we all know classic examples from our mothers.
Yeah.
You
So
know, the
yeah.
self-sacrificing,
Yes.
um, you're just
Yes.
saying yes to be a good person, to
Hmm. Even
request
when you don't want to do
when
it.
you don't want to, and then so you
Yep.
start to build up resentment and start to
Hmm.
feel like you're a doormat
Hmm.
and what you want and need doesn't matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you go out of your way to like wanting to be so good that you don't even realize some of the action steps you take is actually hurting people. And
Mm.
you're just kind of blinded to only see that you're doing something good.
Mm.
Like, for
Oh,
instance, like a good person might also like, I don't know,
oh.
like I don't know why this is coming up, but abortion.
Mhm.
Like a good person, well, maybe I don't want to go that far. Okay. How about like um I don't know. Can you think of a good example of like
What a
how is
good
being
person does.
that's actually not being good?
Oh, what?
Oh, so let's say like you're like a good, oh, like a good person. They think they're being a good person, but actually they're not, and they're blinded to see that they're actually hurting people.
Mm.
So,
Okay, so I mean, take this example of like, I mean, I'm just thinking about an example with like say my mom
uh-huh,
and
uh-huh.
me and her um like she thought being a good person was to stay married
Ah, okay,
because
okay.
it's gonna save my sister and I the stigma
Mm-hmm,
of like coming from a broken home if
mm-hmm.
she gets divorced from my dad.
Mm,
Something, you know,
yeah,
because there's
yeah,
something with Korean culture, like, oh no, if you come from divorced family, then like it's not going to be good
yes,
for your future. So being a good
yes,
person is
yeah,
staying in this marriage and like on the outside at least, or on paper,
yes,
like we're from,
yes,
you know, a
yes.
family that stayed
So
together,
good.
you
Yes,
know? But
yes,
then from my perspective as a child, I was like, that is not the good choice for me or anyone in this family.
exactly, exactly.
Because like it's like what it's actually doing is it's creating, you know,
Yeah,
like living in a war zone because of their
exactly.
incompatibility,
Yeah,
like forcing
yeah,
to be so for the
yeah.
outside that we look good on the outside.
Right. And is your mom really being good towards herself by
No,
staying in something that she may not want to, you
hell
know?
no. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, wow. Okay, so that's a good example.
Yeah.
Uh, um, and also like um I've had those moments too where my parents were very like incompatible. Like, and again, like um I understand that feeling. Like, why would you be in that situation um, if it's not working out? Like, to some degree, in their perception, like it's being a good person.
Mhm. Like
Um,
staying together means
yeah, yeah,
it's good.
yeah. And then not realizing, but they only see the goodness in it
Mhm.
and not seeing the pain that they're causing, which is not good.
Yeah. And they see
Yeah.
divorce and rupture or like
Hmm.
separation as bad.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
So, okay, so that's a good one.
yeah.
And then how about, yeah, go ahead.
I was
What
gonna
are
say,
you
how
gonna-
about your recent epiphany
Oh, yeah. Okay,
about
so
patience? Because this is such a
yeah.
good shadow
Uh-huh.
for I don't know, Korean, Asian
Yeah.
families, you know?
And for actually everybody too, because like I think we all experience this because we all went to school at some point. Like, um, so like I was an educator
Mhm.
for the young ones for a really long time. And this is really common. And I have to say, like, before I became aware of this, like, I also did this too, which I deeply regret. But again, I didn't know at the time.
Mhm.
Oh, and this is a good one because I thought I was doing something good
Mm.
and being a good educator. But I'm realizing, shit, I was not being a good educator. Um, and what happened was like before like the kids line up to go out for recess, they all just kind of gather in like this big old circle,
Mhm.
waiting to be called on to get in line, right? But then the child that actually gets called on to get in line is the child that's sitting patiently. And it shows that this kid is ready and being a good kid. And because you're being a good kid and waiting patiently, it's like they get rewarded and acknowledged of, okay, you get to go in line, like be the leader of the line or whatnot, right? And usually the kid that just can't sit still, like is so impatient and is so like, even if that kid wants to try to sit still and be patient, it's like they just can't do it.
Mhm.
And that kid is usually the kid that lines up last.
Mm.
And I had a huge awareness around like, actually, what I was doing in the past as an educator, which I thought was teaching a child something good
Yeah.
and me being a good educator, the flip side to that was actually, it was the opposite. I was teaching that child who was impatient to say, I see that you really, really, really want to go outside and play.
Mhm.
And I can see that because you can't even sit still. So that really shows me you really want to. And if other kids can do it and that child alone can't, it made me realize now that that child was basically saying, I want to go outside more than the rest of the kids.
Oh my God. So they should be allowed to go first,
Exactly.
not
Because
the other way around.
not the other way around. Exactly. And so now that I see like it's good. Like, okay, the kid wants to like it's not, I'm not trying to say like being patient is bad,
Yeah.
but it's not about discrediting the kid that feels so impatient because it's just so excited to go outside.
Yeah.
That should equally be acknowledged and it's not a bad thing. So it's about saying, oh, I really see that you really want to go outside. Like that's what you really want. So in that moment, I realized that it's really important to give that child who also feels impatient because it really wants to go outside the awareness of like, I see, I am acknowledging you. I see that you really want this. So I'm going to support you. So you can go and get in
Wow.
line first. Yeah. Because
That
that
basically never
kid
happened
was
at school. That never happened in school.
never,
Never.
ever. It's, yeah, you don't. Like, you're the last one. You don't get support. You don't get attention. It's considered bad.
I just realized it's so ingrained because I'm just even like feeling in my body how it's so there's like this, it's so ingrained that if you're like too much, you know, and like really wanting something,
Mhm,
it's almost like I feel like I can only get it if I'm
mhm.
like tamoing. I have to like
Yeah,
push it down
exactly.
first, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
And
inappropriate to be too excited
yeah, yeah. Like it's
because
considered
that means you
bad.
won't get it then because you're not doing
Uh-huh.
good.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Totally. So that was a huge game changer for me because I was that kid where I was rewarded for being patient.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
oh, be more like her. She's being patient.
Yeah.
Like, she's not fussing, she's not being
Yeah.
rude, she's waiting her turn.
Yeah.
Or like, but I realized like even being so patient at times,
Mhm.
it has its pros and cons,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
but my dominant self became this part of me where, again, the double-edged sword was I was too far off to this belief that being patient was only positive
Yeah.
and not actually seeing how it's negative too. Like that just wasn't in my reality.
Yeah.
And so how I had a breakthrough was when I surrendered into this part of me that just didn't want to wait and be patient. I surrendered to that impatient part. And that impatient part was so like, um, I don't want to wait anymore. I want it now. I don't want to be the last one to get it. I don't want to wait around anymore. If I want it, I want to get it now.
Mm.
And this patient part of me, which was so dominant in my life for so many years, that it was basically telling this impatient part, like, no, like, that's not being a good person, basically. And I caught that and I thought, wait a minute,
Oh,
like, wow.
oh, that
I'm like,
moment.
yeah, catching myself, like, what
Yeah.
is this all about?
Yeah.
So I got to a space where I was able to hear this impatient part speak as truth.
Yeah.
And this impatient part led me to a memory of like I will show you. And it gave me that example of the preschool.
Oh,
Yeah.
what
And
preschool?
of like getting in line. And like if that child
Oh,
can't sit still, like you would basically say, you're the type of person that will basically say, that kid is not being a good kid because it's not sitting patiently. Like that's you. And I'm like, oh, it shocked me. And I'm like, no, no, because I used to do that in the past as an educator because I only saw it as a positive thing.
right. Yeah.
And
My God,
this
it's so ingrained.
impatient part was saying, do you see how you are not being a good person? Do you see how this is not benefiting you all the time? Like, can't you see that me being impatient can actually be a good thing? It's
Yeah.
really telling you, I want it. So stop making me wait for it. I want it.
There's so much powerful like energy there,
Mm-hmm.
of like
Mm-hmm.
it's like literally it's kind of like your masculine energy, right? It's kind of like, oh my God, I just
Yeah.
want to like go for it. But it's like
Yeah.
constantly like kind of like damping it down to be
Uh-huh.
a good person.
Uh-huh. And how my patient part played out in life was like, oh, I did all the right things.
Mhm.
I'm waiting patiently. I'm a good person. So it's going to come to me. So I was waiting patiently. That's what I was doing.
Oh my God.
Not really taking the action, just like, okay, now it's going to come to me. I'm going to be seen now. I'm going to do this now.
Right.
So this impatient part basically told me, no, 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 no. You went too far off to one like aspect of this polarity of patience where I don't know, overall it made me recognize like the positivity in being patient, but
Mhm.
also the positivity in being impatient, and also the negativity of being so impatient. Like,
Mhm.
so it got me because like the positivity and patient part of me like didn't accept the impatient part.
Mhm.
The positivity of this patient part helped me to realize like, but I don't want to be so impatient in life where I'm bulldozing people,
Mhm.
like get out of my way, type of energy.
Mhm.
So with that awareness too, I was able to see the double-edged sword of like,
Mhm.
oh, they're both positive, they're both negative, but
Yeah.
how can I utilize it to benefit me and others in a very healthy
Mhm.
way? And because
Wow.
of my own personal experience,
Yeah.
um, it now I feel like I have a good balance of like, okay, um, if I really want something, I'm not just going to sit around. I'm just going to go get it. Um, and that like after I take all these actions, it's okay to be patient and wait and to see the results or
Yes.
whatnot.
So
So,
that's where it's positive to use patience there.
uh-huh,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
So the integrated part of the patient and the patient is now letting me, now that they're friends and they're both being seen and heard, it's like they both are out simultaneously, um, kind of doing this dance together
Mhm, mhm.
and basically working together to create and going for, I don't know, like a smoother path to getting what I want. Yeah.
Oh my God. So there's such an integral parts to getting what you want, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. One
Yeah.
like the go-getter and the one that's also the receiver.
Uh-huh. And now they're both
Uh-huh.
using it in a healthy way,
Yeah.
like both
Right.
aspects. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they keep giving, like they are um checking in on each other, kind of like they keep check on each other all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just, oh, thank you for sharing that example and that story because I know like this is such an, see, this is the thing when you like, when you start to pay attention to these very deep subconscious
Mhm.
dynamics going on and like assumptions about what is good and what is bad, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, and from this and this awareness that you had about only assigning patients as good and this like
Mhm.
breakthrough that you're having since
Yeah.
that awareness, and
Yeah.
I'm just like seeing what's like blooming for you like since you had that awareness, and I'm just want to
Yeah.
send a message about how important it is when you shift
Yeah.
this like subconscious pattern, like
Yeah.
your whole life trajectory just like opens up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I know. And I
Wow.
do feel a big shift within myself
Yeah.
already, like
Massive.
energetically.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. It is massive. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, like even talking about like the
Like it
atoms
affects
too.
every part of your life, you know,
Everything. Yeah.
everything.
And that is life. Like even the atoms of positive and negative attract. Positive and positive don't attract, negative and negative don't attract.
Yeah.
It's like you have to have the positive and a negative to like that's what attracts and like
Yeah. And
brings that
creates,
harmonious state. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
So it is about getting the positive and negative to be friends,
mm-hmm.
not to separate.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Yeah.
my
And
goodness.
that's in everything.
Integration. Yeah.
Exactly.
Everything.
Everything. So if you live life too one-sided of
Yeah.
something, whether it's positive or negative,
Mm-hmm.
it always backfires
Mm-hmm.
as something unpleasant happening to you.
As
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pain.
Yeah.
And so that's why pain is positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, exactly.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, I know that sounds
And that was the same realization with pressure too. Like I had such a negative experience with like feeling the pressure
mhm.
that now I did the same thing with the inpatient part where I realized like, oh wait, how can pressure be a good thing in my life? Because I only saw it as like a negative thing again,
Mm,
as a negative thing only.
mhm.
And so
Can you
I
describe
had
an
this
example of what do you mean by pressure?
like for instance, like I don't do social media and you know that.
Mhm,
I've never ever opened a social media account.
mhm.
The only one thing I did, which was how many years ago? Like 2.5 years ago, when you were the one actually that encouraged me and you worked with me step by step. Like, okay, today you're just going to like create an Instagram account. That's all you have to do. That's it. It took me days for me to get to that step. And
Mm.
once I did, you gave me another homework and said, okay, after that, I just want you to find like 10 people to follow. That's all you have to do. Just that. Finally did. And then somehow, like, it was met with a lot of resistance where it just ended there. Like,
Mhm, mhm,
I never did anything to it for the next 2 years.
mhm,
Um, and I never opened up a Facebook account. I never did Instagram. I never did any type of Twitter, nothing. Like, I just had no interest in it whatsoever.
mhm,
And after I integrated the patient part of
mhm,
like, oh, I want to be seen, I want to be heard, I want to like go for what I want, and all of that, somehow like it gave me this aha moment of I had no resistance of like, I finally want to like have my own Instagram account.
mhm.
Like I'm finally ready. And that to me was such a huge awareness because I've always had resistance to it for like over 20 years.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, or about 20 years now.
Mhm. Yeah.
Always had resistance to it.
Mhm.
And to realize
So,
I don't have
so
resistance to it.
what was the pressure for you
Oh,
to
oh,
have to?
that, yeah. So like even when you told me to start an Instagram account, there was so much pressure of like, I don't want to do it, but I know I should do it. It would be good for me, but
Mhm,
I don't want to do it. And it's that same pressure that I had in school too. Like, I don't want to have the pressure of being in front of the class.
mhm.
I don't want the pressure of like being seen. I
Yeah.
don't want to have the pressure of, oh, and this pressure thing came out because I yesterday integrated leadership.
Mm,
And when I was integrating leadership, the reason why the part of me that wants to be a leader did not was kind of really hidden because of pressure. It was all because of pressure.
mm,
Yeah. And I wanted to integrate leadership because I wanted to step up now. Like, I want to be seen now. I don't want to keep hiding myself, basically. And um, kind of like, I guess I was this next phase of my life, I don't want to be so, I guess, private.
yeah. Mhm,
Um, and so while in like exploring that, I discovered that like I was really able to recognize by surrendering to the negative emotional state of pressure for me.
mhm,
And it was really bad. Like I couldn't stand it. My whole body had the jitters because it was so in resistance to really feeling into the pressure of being seen
mm,
and being the leader of like leading something or just putting myself out there. Um, and I realized that it was an experience that I had because I was always the kid that was um, clumsy, that would always be corrected.
mm,
Yeah. And like, oh, you're not doing it right. Oh, you're not doing it right. You got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. That like, there was this pressure of like not wanting to experience that what I'm doing is wrong. Um, that I had this really like intense anxiety of not wanting to be seen, not wanting to stand out because if I stand out, everyone would be able to see my flaws or my mistakes or
mhm,
whatever it may be. So um, I realized at a very young age that if I'm invisible, basically, like hidden, not seen,
mhm,
don't stand out. If I don't stand out, then that meant that no one really will notice me if I do make a mistake
mhm,
or if I do something wrong or whatever it may be. So
So then you're safer from
uh-huh, uh-huh,
attack.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I created a safe space for me. Yeah. Um, and so like
Oh yeah, to not deal with the pressure of other people's scrutiny.
exactly.
Mhm.
And like criticizing me or
Yeah.
telling me I'm doing something wrong.
Mm.
Because the energy that came with, and basically this is um like I felt a lot of this from my mother um as a kid of like um she was just trying to help me, but it wasn't in the energy where she had the space to really give me that support and help in a loving way,
Mhm.
because she just had no space for that.
Yeah.
So it came from a, like if I did get any help, or it was basically like, oh, like it's okay, I'll just do it. Like that was my mom. Like,
Mhm.
don't worry about it, I'll do it. Like kind of like, I don't need your help, it's okay, I'll do it.
So it's
Because
kind
if
of like
I
encouraging that you're not competent enough to figure it out and do it
myself,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah,
So, oh,
yeah, and
like,
it's okay if I make a mistake or
okay.
something like that. Like that was never expressed. It was just like, you know what, you helping me is gonna like take me longer to finish whatever, whatever,
Oh my
whatever.
God. It just
So
feels like,
like,
oh,
uh-huh, uh-huh. So
screaming
therefore,
incompetence.
uh-huh.
Mhm.
And so if my mom did allow me to help her, which was again this memory that I have of in the kitchen, like I just loved like being in the kitchen and
Mhm.
like using a knife to cut whatever,
Mhm.
like helping her cook and stuff like that. But I could tell I was just always in the way because I was little. I was just learning. My mom didn't have space to teach me. So yeah, if she allowed me to help, like there was so much pressure of like, okay, I finally got the opportunity to help her, but I don't want to screw up, because if I screw up once, my mom's never going to let me help her in the kitchen. So um, that's when I picked up as a kid, like, and this was before kindergarten, um, that like I better not screw up. And because if I screw up, I'm not going to get another opportunity or something like that. So like there was a lot of pressure to not screw up.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I don't
So,
know, ironically, that's how this little kid in me really adopted this belief,
yeah.
because of this experience I had in the kitchen quite often. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and it really bled into my adult life,
Mm.
where if I felt any pressure, like I would feel it to the bones. Like um, all this anxiety, my body would start shaking,
Mhm.
like physically, and I can't focus.
Yeah.
This anxiety becomes so intense and overwhelming that it just made me not want to pursue it because it was too
Mm.
unbearable. Yeah. So
Wow.
when I surrendered to that pressure again, it all came back. The old, like my body, the physical sensation of it shaking, being so terrified of not wanting to screw up.
Mm.
It was so intense. And I just had to sit there, like feeling it all with,
Mm.
like it was really painful. But again, like you with your story about that depression.
Mhm. Oh, I think you froze.